Well, hi there. I'm Diana Montford, the world's first transgender television journalist. Born male, became female, I think, or maybe it was the other way around. I'm not always sure. But anyway, my guest is world-famous journalist Ms. Ann Northrup, who, as you know, is the co-host of Gay USA with the equally famous Andy Hum. They've been doing it for many years now. It's beamed all over the world.
It is. It's available online everywhere.
Everywhere. And, well, so are we. But
Yeah.
anyway, she said arrogantly.
Hopefully.
Yes. But anyway, and Anne and many of us here in the New York LGBTQ community are going to start a different kind of gay pride parade. Usually, you know, today's gay pride, the official gay pride parade is corporatized, monetized. It's very corporate, very much an ad for vodka companies and other strange fruit we know. And we are, and Anne is certainly one of the leaders of this, she's going to, we're all going to start a new parade, I hope.
We are. We're just, we've been shut out of the regular
Yes,
Pride
indeed.
Parade. They are literally keeping people from getting off the sidewalks and into the streets, as the old saying goes. Either you are registered with your organization or your corporation, or you're out. You are on the sidewalks, and we need a return to a community event.
Exactly. And this was once the most transgressive parade possible. In 1970, when it started,
Yep.
the gay pride, it would be like saying serial killer pride or child molester pride.
Well, they talk about having to run up 6th Avenue
Yes.
because people were yelling at them.
Hey, you faggots! You lezzies! God'll get you! They actually said stuff like this.
They did.
Yes.
They did. And it got a little calmer after that, but it was always transgressive, but what it was a community event.
Yes.
And it was a place for everybody to come every year and celebrate everything we'd done and everyone we were and protest and be joyful, and it was just all out there in the street. And all of that has disappeared in favor of corporate floats.
And it's bad for trans folk too, because they always have drag queens,
Yeah.
and it's very much like a minstrel show. I mean, it's like very Vegas-like ladies flinging glitter confetti at the crowd.
Well, we love them too, but
Everyone has rights, yes.
They're being used in the...
Well, they're hired.
Yeah.
They're actually hired. For
well,
real.
we think they'll have more fun with us, but this has been building for a couple of years, and when Trump got elected in 2016, a number of activist groups put together a resistance contingent for the next summer's parade, and in fact, Los Angeles turned over their whole parade to a resistance
That's
event.
wonderful.
They just said no corporate promotions this year. It's all going to be about the resistance. And in New York, it wasn't quite that easy. And the resistance contingent went to Heritage of Pride and said, we want a resistance contingent in the parade. And they went back and forth quite a bit, and it was a little uncomfortable. But eventually they got in that parade, and Gays Against Guns and Rise and Resist and Act Up and a lot of other groups got together and did that. And okay, fine, it was all right. It was in the middle of all the corporate floats, but it was there. And then last year in 2018, again, we went to HOP and
Right.
said we want a resistance contingent, and they were not having it. They were very unwilling to have a resistance contingent in the Pride Parade, and that turned into quite an argument. But eventually they said yes, but you can be in the parade, but you can be 5 hours back in the parade. Now, when you're trying to make a political point, 5 hours back in the parade is really beside the point.
Yeah.
What happens is that a few years ago, a local TV station, WABC, Channel 7,
Here in New York, yes.
yes, started broadcasting part of the parade. Now, what happens is that Heritage of Pride, just like the St. Patrick's Day parade,
Right.
buys TV time.
Yes.
So WABC sold them 3 hours of time from noon to 3 p.m. So then the corporations come in.
And if you're 5 hours behind,
You're not on TV.
Yeah.
Now, I'm on TV plenty.
I
I
am
don't need to
too,
be on
yes.
TV. But you want your political points seen. But the real tragedy of this is that what happens is the corporations pay for their spot at the front of the parade so that they end up on TV. So it becomes this sort of vicious circle where they pay, Hop takes that money, pays the TV station, and then the corporations end up being what's on TV.
the first few parades started at the Village and went uptown. But because someone owned a great many restaurants in the Village, they reversed the parade so that now you march into the blazing sun 4 hours.
Yes, yes, and so all the businesses on Christopher Street wanted business. So instead of ending up in Central Park, it did get reversed. It's had many routes, many manifestations, and when Giuliani became mayor, he shortened it so it started after St. Patrick's Cathedral and came downtown so the cardinal wouldn't be offended, all this kind of stuff. So anyway, so last year it was a real, I was in the resistance contingent, but I went to the lining up spot. You line up on side streets before this thing starts, and you could be there half the day before you get to start. And I just got disgusted by the whole thing and walked away. I didn't even get into the parade. So a bunch of us who were part of that got together after last year's parade and said, look, we cannot keep having these battles. We cannot do this in this ad hoc way. Let's be grown-ups about this. Let's figure out how to do it. So we got together and we approached Heritage of Pride and we said, look, can we please talk about Stonewall 50 coming up next year? This is an important year and we don't want to have it be a mess, and we really would like to talk to you about what it's
Stonewall
going to be next
25 was not the best celebration ever.
Well, at least it was a people's march. It was, and we had 2 parades, and we wound up in Central Park with a big rally that I thought was pretty good. But we wanted to be sensible about it. So they said, fine, come talk to us. So we did. And we had very cordial conversations.
Right.
They're nice people. They work very hard. I wouldn't want to have to do everything they do to put this on.
Right.
But we just, after a number of meetings, realized that we were on very different wavelengths. And we just had agendas that were so different that we could not find a way to meld this.
Now, let me ask you something. Do you need a permit to march? Will the alternate parade need a permit from the city?
We are totally kosher. Here's what happened. So after we realized we could not work something out with Hop, we went off, we said to ourselves, after gulping hard, we really have to create our own parade. We cannot be part of that. It's just not what we're after. And we really, really, really miss the original parades.
Just to play devil's advocate here, on the other hand, the fact that we, the LGBTQ community, have become so mainstream that we can be corporatized and monetized is not the worst fate that can befall us.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not against all the help we've gotten from corporations. We just, this year, have done things like defeated or delayed some very bad bills in Tennessee because corporations got on board to say to Tennessee, don't do this.
Exactly.
I am well aware and highly grateful for that kind of involvement by corporations. But that does not mean I'm turning over the Pride Parade to them. And if they want to line up on the side of the street all the way down the length of the parade with their signs and whatever, fine, be my guest. But I want a people's march and a political march. We may have become corporatized and monetized happily in certain areas of the United States, but over half the states still do not have statewide non-discrimination laws, let alone a federal law.
We ourselves, trans inclusion, was not the law until this past year.
Well, exactly. And look how the movement debated among itself to leave you out for many years.
I remember.
They're still rounding up people in Chechnya and Saudi Arabia and Iran and killing people. It's they're
non-traditional values, they call it.
Well, and look at the Republicans in Congress who are still look at Trump and what he's doing to us, and how
look at the trans people in the military,
and trans kids in schools, and he got rid of the guidelines supporting them.
I know.
So to hold look, I know people want to party. I'm not trying to kill their party. But I think there are serious issues that need to be dealt with, and I think the community needs to come together in both celebration and protest. So that we decided that's what we were going to do. So we started organizing this. So yes, we met with the police department repeatedly. I'm on that negotiating team, and told them what we wanted to do, and they are fine with us doing it. They have worked out routes so that we do not collide with the Heritage of Pride Parade. We are starting in Sheridan Square on Sunday, June 30th, assembling at 9:30 a.m., several hours before the Heritage of Pride Parade, so we don't bump into each other. And we are just going to skedaddle up 6th Avenue at a brisk pace. And for people who don't want to get up that early, come to Bryant Park and meet us there. We're going to gather people there, but you can join us anywhere along the route.
So it starts at Sheridan Square, which is right across from the Stonewall Inn.
Correct.
And it goes up to 42nd Street and 6th Avenue.
Well, what will happen is we walk 1 block north on 7th Avenue, take a right on 10th Street over to 6th, and then go straight up 6th all the way to Central Park. But we will...
Sort of by the Jefferson Market Library.
Yes, that's where we'll hit
Which was
6th.
once the Jefferson Market Courthouse, where no doubt many gay people were sentenced to prison.
Many. Still are, not there, but in other places.
And there was the Women's House of Detention.
Exactly. Yes, we'll hit all these landmarks along the way.
Yes.
But the point is that no matter what time you get up, no matter where you are, you can join us along the route, because unlike the Heritage of Pride Parade, we will have very few barricades and very few police guarding us, because they're all going to be at the Heritage of Pride Parade. They don't have enough left for us. So it'll be very free, and we will just be sauntering up 6th Avenue. We will pick up a crowd from Bryant Park. We will pick up people from the sidewalks all along the way. We will go into Central Park. And by the time you see this, we'll have settled on our landing place. At the moment as we're recording this,
Excuse me.
We're still deciding whether to go to the Great Lawn or to
Thank you.
or to the
cough
band
drop.
shell. Yeah, I'm fully equipped.
Oh, no, it's a Tuinol. No, it's a cough drop. We gay people, we just do these terrible things.
And then we'll have a great rally there somewhere in
Yes,
Central Park.
and that is very much like the original, 70s, the early 70s. That was what it was.
And the 80s. It's really relatively recent that all this corporate involvement has hit.
Yeah.
Because I can remember being in these, in the parades when there were people's community marches.
Sure,
And you'd go back and forth to different contingents, and you'd see your friends, and your friends would join you from the sidewalks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people you hadn't seen in years were on the sidewalk, and hi, how are you?
And then, and they would jump in when they saw you, and it was just joyous. And people can bring any signs or banners or anything they want, but no floats. And the only police in our march are going to be the undercover ones, who I'm sure will be there keeping an eye on us.
Yes.
But no contingents of uniformed police. That's
Exactly.
They have yet to apologize for Stonewall.
Officer Pine, wherever you might be.
Well, he said something, but the rest
He
of them.
did actually,
Yeah,
and
I was there.
he said he was glad it happened, that it changed everything.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the NYPD and the City of New York have never apologized, and they spent years thereafter continuing to entrap gay men.
Well, they did it recently. In fact, they did it under the watch of a gay Speaker of the City Council, Christine Quinn.
And I'm sure you know about the trans woman in the Bronx who was arrested walking home from work.
Oh, that happens all the time.
Yeah, well, she was kept in handcuffs for 24 hours under arrest.
In 1999, 1999, right across from the old center, the one that was on Little West 12th Street when they were rebuilding,
Yep.
a cop said to a trans woman, come here. And she said, okay. He said, do you know the time? She said, yeah, you're under arrest. They kept her for 6 days in prison.
Oh, my God.
Yes. And that was Officer Rodriguez at the 6th Precinct.
And they're still arresting trans kids for just walking down the street.
Sure.
It's just, so the idea that we would want uniformed cops in our march.
Who always make a pass at the trans women, I might add.
Of course. And
a real one, not
yes,
a fake mocking one.
And then abuse people out of the other side of their mouth.
Yes.
So we are for the communities, all communities, and particularly oppressed communities and marginalized people. And and it's going to be magnificent. And we really want everyone to come out and join us.
And if you're not in New York, but you are planning to come to New York for the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Rebellion, if you have to choose a parade, choose this one, the Queer Liberation March. The real parade, our parade, as opposed to the corporatized buy our Smirnoff vodka
Ours
parade.
is going to be a lot shorter.
Yes.
It's a longer route, but we're going to move a lot faster.
And you'll meet much more interesting people.
Oh, my God, yes. We'll have so much
And
fun.
you can meet Anne and Andy, who will be there.
You bet.
And all sorts of people, and, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
So,
So what are you up to these days?
This is my 29th year on the air doing this show.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Quite a record.
Thank you. And I hope to keep going until I drop dead on camera or they shoot me. One or the other, or both, maybe,
Well, what do you like about doing this show?
Well, I started this show because I wasn't seeing what I needed to see. There were no trans people. I mean, there was Jerry Springer. There was, Phil Donahue.
Trans?
He is. He just doesn't know it.
Yeah.
But, they meant well. But they were always showing, trans people beating one another up or whatever. And I wanted, we play classical music at the beginning.
I know. I felt like I was at, Buckingham Palace.
Well, that's why we do it, to lend dignity to the trans cause. Because if we played cutesy music like in a Warhol film, dee-dee, 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 like the Three Stooges music, we'd be right back where we started.
Can I tell you my favorite? Sure. I was on the Phil Donahue show twice.
Well, he's very nice. I'm not saying anything against him.
Very nice. No, absolutely. At once for Act Up with some of my Act Up colleagues, and that was terrific. But then they called me up one day and they said, we know that there is a lot of anger between the bisexual community and the gay people. And I said, really? I have no ill feelings towards bisexual people. They said, yeah, but we want to do a show about the fight between
So please be angry, on cue.
No,
yeah.
And a lesbian and bisexuals. I said, well, really, I'm not going to fight with anybody. I have no animosity. I don't buy this whole premise. That's okay. We want you to come on. So I said, well, whatever. And then I found out who the bisexual guests were. And
Marlo Thomas? No.
And I called them up and I said, you'll never believe this, but they want me to come on and talk about how we all hate each other. And that's ridiculous, and I'm not going to do that. So let's talk about this. So I went over to their hotel that morning before we were taping the show, and we planned the whole thing out. Good. And then the Donahue show had sent cars to pick us up, so I went in one car, and they went in the other car.
Well, you can't put these people together. They'll kill each other.
Heavens, no. So we get on the air, we're taping, and Phil starts with this, there's this anger between, and I sat there and said, I don't feel that at all. And this look, you could just see his face fall about 6 inches. It was hilarious.
He should have gone to Marlo's surgeon,
Look.
She's great. She's 80. She looks 12. I love it.
Well, it was very funny to have them. It's a typical TV Booker
Yeah,
story.
sure.
They just weren't listening.
I have a wonderful friend who went on Ricky Lake, and they totally shafted her. It was not at all what they said they were going to discuss.
Yep.
It was awful.
Yes.
She hated it.
Yeah. No, and it takes, I've worked in TV for so many years that I could see what they were trying to accomplish and have no qualms about sabotaging them.
Yeah,
But
good for you.
people get caught off guard. And
You were at CBS before you did this, weren't you?
I was a writer-producer at the CBS Morning News and at Good Morning America and local Channel 2, a talk show called Woman in 1971.
Oh, you were a baby then.
Yeah, right. I was a baby.
No, you were like, what, 18?
Older. But it was a 5-day-a-week daily talk show. And
In New York?
Yes.
Woman, was that on NBC?
No, Not for Women Only was on NBC.
And then it was...
We were the competition.
First it was for women only, then it was not for women only.
Because Barbara Walters didn't want to do For Women Only. She wanted to do Not for Women Only.
And then Harry Reasoner tried to kill her. It was awful. But anyway.
Poor thing.
I know.
She's done fine.
We don't
have to feel sorry for Barbara.
She was my mother's idol.
Yeah?
Yeah, so she's like old enough to be our mother, you know.
Yes.
But she's great, you know.
Well, I'm sure she was difficult to work with, but she was quite a, her ambition made room for all the rest of us. So we certainly appreciate that.
Yeah. And she's quite lovely, even though she always deprecated her looks, and she was beautiful. Sadly, I believe she has Alzheimer's now. I
know that she hasn't made any public appearances lately. I don't know what the story is.
But anyway, you know, I love Jessica Savage. I thought she was great.
Oh, poor Jessica Savage.
Yes, poor dear.
That was a sad story.
And she invented the prototype of the blonde newscaster, which is a good or a bad thing, it depends.
Yeah.
And Sue Simmons and all those wonderful people, yes.
Poor Sue. Come on, Sue. Are you out yet? It's time.
It's like the secret. It's like the white elephant in the room, you know.
Well, you know, on Gay USA, Andy and I have no qualms about referring to people who are gay as gay.
Yes.
Because, first of all, we don't think it's an insult.
Hello.
And second of all, if, you know, we like to tell the truth. We don't talk about people we're not sure about, that they're just rumors about. But if you have someone like Sue Simmons or Kevin Spacey or whatever, Jodie Foster before she came out, you know, you need to routinely refer to people as they are. And I just think that's news. Yeah. And I don't see that it's a bad thing, you know. It's not a bad thing. But anyway, now how can people contact you? They should look at they should go to the website, which has been displayed under my name, reclaimprideny.org. reclaimprideny.org. That is the organization we put together that has created the Queer Liberation March. Are alternate parades going on in different cities? There are some, and it's interesting because this is a sort of nascent movement. Toronto's main Pride Parade is talking about getting rid of corporate floats. They won't, but they are talking about it. Yes, and this is slowly penetrating the consciousness around the world. And you know what moves me really is because I do the Gay USA show weekly, so I get lots of information about what's going on all over the world. And when I see things like Ugandan gay people who are living in a refugee camp in Kenya because they would otherwise be killed in Uganda, and now they're in a Kenyan refugee camp where they get abused on a daily basis, and they created a pride parade in the Kenyan refugee camp. They're marching around the Kenyan refugee camp with little rainbow flags. Isn't that great? Oh my God, it's just, nothing could be more moving. You know, we've always existed, we always will. They can't legislate against us. I have a cough drop in my mouth. They can't, we just are. I mean,
there is nothing that causes homosexuality. What causes heterosexuality? No one ever asks that.
I spent a lot of years talking to school kids about that and explaining that. But
well, you go around to schools and give
I did,
talks
yes. I worked for the Hetrick Martin Institute.
which is
That's
wonderful.
where I met Andy. But but I feel very lucky to be living in this time of transition, where all this ferment is taking place.
But we are old enough to remember the pre-Stonewall world.
Of course.
Yes.
But we're also right in the thick of it for the last few decades.
Well, people say, but we changed it. Well, we didn't. The time was right. Right place, right time.
Well, I think it's, you know, the movement has been unique, really, in not having a lot of leaders, in being a true grassroots movement. And I am moved on a daily basis by what I see individuals doing in small towns, in Eastern Europe,
God
in
knows.
Asia, all over the world.
In Islamic countries where they literally
Yes.
risk their lives.
Yes.
And the lives of their families as well.
And they're not doing it with huge organizations and a lot of support. They're doing it because they realize that they need to stand up for their own dignity.
Exactly. And, you know, the genie's out of the bottle. We're not going back in, you know.
No, much as the Trump administration would like us to push us back in.
On September 27th, 1991, I interviewed Quentin Crisp. And he said to me at that time, now I was 35 at the time. I was an idiot because I was 35. No offense to people who are 35. He said, you know, don't get too comfortable because the laws might change and they might take away the advances we've made. And I thought, boy, this old guy, he is so out of it. He is just like addled, you know. That lavender hair dye uses has penetrated his brain. And I said, well, Mr. Crisp. My father was still alive and he liked me demure. Oh, Mr. Crisp. Oh, I don't think that's the case, sir. Anyway, he was right. I was wrong.
Well, he was right, but he was a little too negative. Because no matter, you were right in saying that no matter what they do to us, we're not going back. And there are far too many of us everywhere and feeling good about ourselves to let them take us too far backwards. There, you know, it's always 2 steps forward and 1 step back. I can live with that, but I so love the beauty and strength of our various communities, and
I do too.
It's just very heartwarming.
Anyway, now we have a few seconds left. My guest has been world-famous journalist Miss Ann Northrup, who co-hosts Gay USA, which is seen all over the world. The Queer Liberation March is at Reclaim Pride.
ReclaimPrideNYC.org. Queer Liberation March, Sunday, June 30th, 9:30 a.m., Sheridan Square, or anywhere along 6th Avenue as we march up the avenue.
Yes, and Sheridan Square is
7th Avenue and Christopher Street.
And that is where the Stonewall Rebellion started.
I love that you call it the rebellion.
I never called it the riots.
No, it's a rebellion.
It was a rebellion.
Yes.
Anyway, my guest has been Miss Ann Northrup. You know her well. I'm Diana Montford. This has been the Diana Montford Show. I love you a lot, whether you go to the parade or not. I love you a lot. Ann loves you a lot. We love you a lot. See you next time. Bye.
Thank you, Diana.
My pleasure.